The whisper of rebellion. What if everything you've been told about paradise was nothing more than a carefully crafted lie? Picture Eden in a flawless garden, towering trees, crystal clear rivers, and eternity promised like a gift wrapped in perfection. But hidden among all that beauty, there lay something that shattered the illusion, the forbidden fruit. Why would a supposedly all-knowing God plant the seed of downfall right in the heart of his own creation? Lucifer, the light-bearer, could no longer ignore such a contradiction. Was that fruit truly just a test? Or was it the perfect calculated trap? A silent question began to ripple through the heavens. What if free will wasn't a divine gift, but a cleverly disguised death sentence? While humankind marveled at the splendor of the garden, the skies whispered a haunting thought. Why create something untouchable, knowing that temptation would be impossible to resist? The first spark of rebellion was born there, between the rustling leaves and the whispers of Eden's winds. And what if everything you believe is a lie? What was truly hidden behind that fruit? Was it merely a symbol, or a forbidden secret never meant to be uncovered? Now tell me, do you believe the fruit was a test or a divine trap? The echo of doubt. The serpent wasn't the first to ask the question. Long before it whispered to humankind, another mind had already pondered, if God longed for purity, why leave the key to destruction so exposed? Lucifer, before his fall, watched the divine blueprint with sharp, questioning eyes. Celestial perfection always seemed unfinished, as if God, in his so-called wisdom, had scattered clues for those bold enough to look beyond the surface. Could it be that the Creator intended for the mistake to happen? That sin wasn't born out of chance, but out of careful design. The fruit wasn't an accident in Eden. It was the trigger for a much darker story. And what if the true sin wasn't eating the fruit, but creating it in the first place? That doubt echoed through the void, not rooted in soil, but planted deep inside every angel and every man. Because in a truly perfect world, temptation should have no place. And if temptation exists, maybe perfection was never real at all. Did God really want it this way? The fruit was bitten, but who was the first to take a bite? Mankind, the serpent, or the very idea of perfection itself? If this mystery has already made you question everything, hit the like button and support the channel. The journey is only getting started, the silence that echoes through the void. In the space between heaven and the abyss, Lucifer walks alone. One question pounds in his mind. If God knew mankind would never resist temptation, why place the forbidden fruit at the heart of paradise? Creation was said to be perfect, or so the angels believed. Yet a seed of imperfection had been buried deep in Eden's core, a tree too beautiful to ignore, a forbidden fruit, an inevitable desire, a silent trap. What if sin wasn't born from man, but was carefully woven into the design by the divine itself? Lucifer gazes upon the world. He sees churches, pulpits, preachers, all pointing fingers at humanity, blaming Eve and Adam for their fall. But no one dares to ask, who planted the fruit? Who set the spark that would ignite the downfall of all creation? Could it be that divine perfection always concealed the intention of failure? Ancient texts speak of a God who knows all, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. If he knew the ending, why allow it? Or worse, why provoke it? What if the real test was never for man, but a setup to justify divine control over free will? And then Lucifer whispers one last question into the emptiness. What is sin if not the natural hunger to uncover the forbidden? And in that moment, paradise falls silent. But sometimes silence is more unsettling than any answer. Lucifer lifts his eyes to the heavens. The sky appears flawless, but he can see the cracks beneath its surface. What if the forbidden fruit was only the first link in an invisible chain? A silent mechanism designed to keep the world turning, but always steering it toward failure.
The fall of Adam and Eve wasn't a mistake.
It wasn't rebellion. It was the flawless execution of a perfectly calculated script. Free will was never freedom, only a beautifully crafted illusion. Why does pleasure disturb the divine so much? That question still lingers unanswered. The fruit didn't just offer knowledge, it offered something far more dangerous, the awareness of existence. And when man took the bite, sin wasn't born, doubt was. And doubt is the one weapon every god fears. Lucifer, cast out for daring to question, watches as mankind is condemned for simply making a choice. But what choice if the outcome was already written? Religions rise, dogmas are built, and fear is packaged and sold as salvation. What if everything you believe is a lie that started in the garden? Paradise was just the stage. The fruit was only the trigger. The real trap was free will itself. And as the centuries pass, Lucifer waits patiently, because the next piece of this grand design is already in place. Now you'll understand, sin wasn't a human failure. What if the greatest secret of creation wasn't the fall, but the intention behind it? From the very first breath, humanity carried something hidden deep within. Not a seed of purity, but a blueprint for failure. Lucifer saw it before anyone else. Divine order was never about obedience. It was about control. The forbidden fruit, placed at the heart of the garden, wasn't a test. It was an invitation, a lure, a quiet provocation. Like hiding fire in a dark room and expecting no one to strike a match. Did God truly want this all along? Sin wasn't born from an accident. It was designed, preordained. Eden was never a paradise. It was a cage without bars. And when Adam and Eve bit into the fruit, they didn't rebel. They simply followed the script written by an unseen author. Knowledge didn't destroy mankind. The crushing weight of guilt did. Lucifer watches in silence. He was punished for asking questions. Humanity for feeling desire. But both were betrayed by the same illusion of perfection. What if everything you believe is just the story they wanted you to hear? There's no such thing as free will when the game was rigged from the start. The fruit was only the beginning. Guilt was the real gift. And now you'll finally see how the idea of hell was never meant as punishment, but as the ultimate tool of control. If this revelation shook the foundation of what you believed, share it with someone you know who's ready to wake up. The invisible prison. Hell. The place where sinners would pay for their mistakes for all eternity. But what if it was nothing more than an invention? Lucifer never needed chains. The real prison was the human mind, the fear of punishment, planted in every prayer, every sermon, every whisper before sleep. Why does pleasure disturb the divine so much? Sin was never hard. It was natural. As natural as breathing, as natural as desire. Hell was created to shape behavior, to control bodies and thoughts. Think about it. An all-knowing, all-powerful God, crafting fragile, flawed creatures, wired for pleasure, only to punish them for being exactly what he designed. Lucifer whispers into humanity's ear, "You were never cast out for eating the fruit. You were condemned for daring to think beyond what you were allowed." What if hell wasn't a place at all? What if it's here now, surrounding you? In your fear, in your silence, in your blind obedience. Did God truly intend it this way? Punishment doesn't begin after death. It starts with the very first fear they teach you. Join me to uncover why even the angels questioned divine logic, and what became of those who dared to doubt. If this part made you rethink everything they taught you as a child, write in the comments. Hell begins in the mind. Let's see how many are brave enough to admit it. The angels who dared to doubt. Not all angels accepted the silence. Some questioned, and they will pay for it until the end of time. Lucifer was not the only one. There were others. Hidden voices, winged beings who refused to pretend they understood the divine plan. They asked, if God is perfect, why create something imperfect? There was no answer. Only the fall. What if everything you believe is a lie? These angels discovered that questioning was the true heresy, not betrayal, not disobedience, but thinking. Doubt was the real original sin, and God did not forgive. He shaped blind obedience into a virtue and planted fear like a fence. Lucifer only revealed what was always hidden. Freedom was an illusion from the very first breath. Why does pleasure disturb the divine so much? Perhaps because pleasure is the only thing that reminds us we are alive, and pain, the only proof that we are imprisoned. Lucifer watches the world and whispers, the angels who doubted were forgotten, but the humans who dare to doubt are silenced. Now you're about to uncover the secret religion never wanted you to know, what it really means to be cast out of paradise. If this revelation opened your eyes, share this video with someone who's still living on autopilot. Maybe this is the spark they need to finally wake up. The world has always believed that being cast out of Eden was the price of disobedience. But what if it was the opposite? What if that exile was actually the first act of liberation in history? Lucifer whispered into Eve's ear. He didn't lie. The fruit didn't bring death, it brought awareness. The sin wasn't eating, the sin was opening her eyes. Did God really want this? That question has echoed since the beginning of time. And perhaps it's the very question he fears the most. Humans left paradise, but they carried something with them that not even God could erase. The ability to question. The serpent was only the messenger. The real enemy from the very beginning was doubt. And those who dare to doubt, do not blindly obey. What if everything you believe is a lie? What if paradise wasn't a gift, but rather a golden prison? What if the real punishment wasn't being cast out, but being born there in the first place? Lucifer didn't create evil. He simply turned on the light in creation's darkened room. Now you're about to understand why, to this day, no one dares to answer the question Lucifer asked. Because that answer could change everything you know about faith, power, and freedom. If this flipped your mind upside down, send this video to someone you know needs to wake up to this hidden truth. The world is ready, but our people, the world has always believed that being cast out of Eden was the price of disobedience. But what if it was the opposite? What if that exile was actually the first act of liberation in history? Lucifer whispered into Eve's ear. He didn't lie. The fruit didn't bring death, it brought awareness. The sin wasn't eating. The sin was opening her eyes. Did God really want this? That question has echoed since the beginning of time. And perhaps it's the very question he fears the most. Humans left paradise, but they carried something with them that not even God could erase. The ability to question. The serpent was only the messenger. The real enemy from the very beginning was doubt. And those who dare to doubt, do not blindly obey. What if everything you believe is a lie? What if paradise wasn't a gift, but rather a golden prison? What if the real punishment wasn't being cast out, but being born there in the first place? Lucifer didn't create evil. He simply turned on the light in creation's darkened room. Now you're about to understand why, to this day, no one dares to answer the question Lucifer asked. Because that answer could change everything you know about faith, power, and freedom. If this flipped your mind upside down, send this video to someone you know needs to wake up to this hidden truth. The world is ready, but our people, the silence of God. Since the beginning, doubt has echoed through the universe like thunder trapped in time. Why create the fruit if it was never meant to be touched? Why plant temptation if desire would be punished? Lucifer didn't bring chaos, he brought the question, the same question God never answered. And within that silence lies the true mystery. The Creator does not fear sin, he fears awakening. Why does pleasure disturb the divine so much? Because pleasure is what frees us from the invisible chains of submission. Pleasure shatters fear, and without fear, there is no obedience. The forbidden fruit was never poison. It was a portal, a shortcut to a consciousness that even angels were forbidden to touch. And humans? They were merely the experiment. Did God really want this? Or was Lucifer simply the first to see the failure of paradise? Doubt was never the punishment. It was the exit ticket. The world we know is just the shadow of what truly happened in that garden. And to this day, no one dares to answer Lucifer's question, because deep down everyone already knows the answer. And what if sin wasn't disobedience, but the courage to seek the truth? What would you do if you knew the truth is still hidden, right in front of your eyes? Now it's your turn. Answer in the comments. Do you believe doubt was a sin or a gift? Your opinion might change everything.